that the biggest existential threat to Kenya's declining economy and democracy and freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of political affiliation and growth is Uhuru Kenyatta, because he is on the driver's seat.
So that is the Member of Parliament for Kandara, that is Alice Wahome. We had invited her to the show. She had confirmed, but late in the evening she cancelled on us and she said she's not able to turn up at this time. We'll try to invite her again in future, but the conversation continues. And when you listen to that, you're coming from a situation in the election of 2017. Those in Jubilee Party were standing with their candidate and candidates, that is the Deputy President and the President. Now things would appear to, let me use the words of Kabando, to have fallen apart. And now those people who were attacking the President that time are supporting him, including yourself, Honorable Wanga. I mean, so the words of Alice Wahome, how do you take them? Is she just angry, or she has a right to feel how she feels?
Alice is a hypocrite. Let me say that. That statement reeks of hypocrisy. Why? One, Alice says in that statement that the biggest existential threat to the economy of this country is Uhuru Kenyatta. Alice herself is a big supporter of the Deputy President, William Ruto, with whom the presidency is formed. In fact, Alice goes everywhere with the William Ruto saying William Ruto should be the next president. If Jubilee has failed in the manner that she lists, she should not be the person holding the biggest banner for election of the Deputy President as president, if she's truly concerned about those failures, as she says. And that is why I say hypocrisy of the highest order. Alice, in my view, because even if you saw the way Alice read that statement, it was, Alice is a brilliant lawyer herself. I mean, we are here with her. She is somebody who's able to express herself. But in reading that statement, she was unable to read it. In fact, she was so incoherent, you could see that somebody had written the statement and slipped it. She said that BBI is a special purpose vehicle, SPU. I mean, where does that kind of thing happen? That shows that somebody wrote the statement and Alice was speaking on behalf of somebody else. And the thing is this, let me come back to the BBI and why Alice was
before
speaking.
Before we go to BBI, I know she's not here to defend herself, but she has gone ahead to defend it at different platforms that she has gotten, including on our sister station in Oro TV. How would you accuse her that someone wrote it for her, and who would that be?
And let me say this, because of the way she was unable to read the statement, it was obviously not her statement. And if you look at the contradiction, after calling Uhuru the existential threat to democracy and so on, when she was now speaking off the cuff, she said, you know, and Uhuru is our president and we respect him very much, and so on and so forth. You could see the imbalance in that statement. But I've gone ahead to qualify why I say that her statement was hypocritical.
But just because the deputy and the president are the same ticket, does that mean automatically that Alice Wahome has to support ideas of the president?
No, I'm not saying she has to support ideas of the president. But I'm saying it does not make sense to say that the existential threat to our economy and our democracy and so on is Uhuru Kenyatta because she says that the economy is failing. This is a Jubilee-driven agenda. If she had said that and not gone ahead to carry the banner of the deputy president, campaigning for him to be the next president, maybe it would make sense. But Alice campaigns day in, day out for William Ruto to become the president of Kenya in the next two and a half years. So it doesn't make sense to me. If Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, as she says, have failed, why would she be on the front line campaigning for William Ruto to be the next president? That is where I read hypocrisy.
Right, so if it's the same presidential
ticket, and
right.
I just want to say it here, that I think at the heart of Alice's statement is the succession battle. Alice went ahead to call Raila Odinga a political mercenary. She couldn't read her statement, which meant that somebody had sent her. Who is a bigger mercenary? So to call Raila Odinga a political mercenary without any evidence as to that is very disrespectful, to say the least. So her statement was abusive And for Gladys Post to say that all she said was that, you know, there is a problem with democracy, and she was telling Uhuru the truth. So when did Alice realize that Uhuru is the biggest existential threat to our democracy?
Right.
Okay, I think let me just quote. Can I give you quotations from the BBI report? The BBI report, I think I remember it offhand. The BBI report says, 1, that legal and constitutional systems have collapsed. That is what it says in Kenya. 2, it says political and economic functions of the government are on the downtown to the extent that it's a catastrophe in the making. It uses the words catastrophe in the making. It also says that there is rampant and chronic unemployment in the country. It goes on to say that justice is for sale. It goes on to say that public officers no longer serve Kenyans. It goes on to say that Kenyans feel unsafe in their homes. It is that Kenya is the most unsafe country. And that is why when I came on this show, I said that, so tell me, how different is those words of BBI from what Alice has said is a problem in Kenya?
If that be the case, Honorable Shollei,
yes.
Well, she has a problem with, if I got that correctly,
I mentioned the name, yes. I know that's
Alice Wahome,
yes.
Blaming a party
No,
leader.
for me, I think when you mention, just the way when I mentioned the governor of Nairobi, I include their deputy. When I mention Uhuru Kenyatta, it is the presidency, which includes William.
But the irony is campaigning for William Ruto to be the president.
Do you agree with the statement of Honorable Wahome that President Kenyatta is the biggest threat, existential threat to the country's democracy and economy?
No, you see, what you are doing is that you have picked a sentence without reading the rest of it.
Yeah, because that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, no. I don't do that. I'm a lawyer. I don't pick a line out of a whole page and then make a comment on it. So that's why I said I'm looking at it holistically in summary form. Yeah, no, you can't trap me with those kind of questions, by the way. It doesn't work. I'm a trial lawyer. So listen, I'm telling you. I mean,
how many times do we have to be reminded?
Yeah, so the thing is that as many times as they forget.
So
what I'm saying is that if you look holistically, in a nutshell, what Alice said, and look at what BBI, because BBI, if what Alice says is an insult to the president, then BBI was a worse insult. Yes, because it basically says the country has collapsed. Okay. And I'm very happy today when I read the words of James Orengo. James Orengo said that BBI is the book of lamentations. We must move from it. He's using my exact words, which I said on this show.
Okay, did you let me say this about the BBI process. And in sitting down between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, there was a recognition that there is a problem. But they did not want to stop at lamentation. Okay. They wanted to find solutions.
So he admits it's lamentations.
And let me just say, the reason they sat is because there was a problem. And there was a problem in the 9 areas that they identified. And they listed what those problems are. And Kenyans confirmed that, yes, we have a problem with our judicial system. We have a problem with corruption. We have a problem with joblessness. Because in sitting down, there was a recognition that there was a problem that needed to be resolved. So now the difference between BBI, which Alice is opposing, and Alice Wahome sitting at a press conference, is BBI is set on trying to find solutions to these problems. Okay. This is what Alice is calling a special purpose vehicle for succession in 2022. No, BBI is to find a solution to the problems that have bedeviled Kenyans. If you remember, we have, as ODM and CORD and NASA, we continuously spoke about the failings that we saw in the last, in the government. Okay. And as soon as Raila and Uhuru sat down and said, let us find a solution to these problems, we decided to support that process. Okay. And there are things that Boss Shollei said earlier, and at that time we were not yet talking about BBI, and I hope we're going to find a chance to talk about them, because she said that BBI does not require a referendum. It does.
All right, let's listen into what some leaders from Central Kenya have been saying, reacting to the comments of Alice Wahome, before we can transition to the conversation that both of you have intimated into, that is to do the BBI. So the Mount Kenya leaders spoke sometimes, I believe it was late last week, and they was talking about that statement by Alice Wahome.
Mpango wa katika Central Kenya, we shall not accept. Mheshimiwa Kiojori, organize us. Tupange vizuri, tuelekee vizuri, tutwarithio guo wewe dereva ito tuthi tuthiete.
Sasa watu wanauda chama, sisi tukiuda yetu ni vita. Sisi tunataka chama yetu ile tutasimama nayo. Tukutane kwa debe. Si ndio? Ni over 6 million. Na kuna watu wametufanyia hesabu tukiwa tumelala. Wagawe kura ya Mount Kenya mara 3. Tukiwa akienda pale 2022 mnauliza nyinyi mna kura ngapi? Mko na MP wawili, kaeni kado. Wale wa huko Ukambani wako na MP wangapi? 50.
Uhuru Muigai wa Kenyatta yeye mwenyewe ametuambia na tuko kwa chama ya Jubilee. Na hiyo chama ni yetu. Hatuwezi toka kwa nyumba yetu, tuende tumetoka nyumba ya mawe, tuanze kutembea hata kutafuta kanyumba kengine huko.
If she's fed up with the party, like I said, if you find a ship sinking, the only best thing to do is to jump out.
How about those leaders like the MP who have been given close to 700 million for CDF? What has she done with that money? Is that money not supposed to contribute to the economy, or is it supposed to go to her pocket?
So these are some of the leaders who spoke a bit furious about the statements of Alice Wahome. And even yesterday we saw some chaos at Kenol. It's in Kandara constituency. There was a press conference, but it was disrupted. Of course, divided on the view of Alice Wahome, those supporting, those against it. But that's what it is. Let's listen also. We'll be listening to what Raila Odinga and Aden Duale said about the BBI, but let's get into the conversation.
Look at the tax issue.
That we now see, we'll get to that, that we now see Senator James Orengo saying that they are going to embark on some rallies across the country to popularize the BBI and also explain it to the people. And apparently it's going to cost 10 billion shillings. I don't know, what are your thoughts? Must we be done by July, and where are we getting this money from?
Okay, so let me first clarify. When the president spoke about the 10 billion, because I saw it on a report on Citizen, the 10 billion was for reparations of historical injustices. 10 billion was never, in my understanding, for BBI. Because what the president said was that we are setting aside 10 billion, and we have been waiting for the regulations. You know, and I think Boss Shollei is very efficient in processing regulations for compensation for historical injustices. So the 10 billion was never about BBI as a process.
But it's part of funding the BBI process.
Not, I don't even know.
Okay, whatever it is, I mean, BBI should tell us how much it has cost.
Reparations, it's about compensation of people. For example, victims of the Wagala massacre, Baby Pendo and the others who were affected by post-election violence, and others who lost their property even here in Nairobi and in other places. That was the 10 billion. So the confusion that 10 billion is for purposes of, you know, BBI is I think should be cleared. Okay. It is not, if you listen to the president's speech, beyond just the part that I saw was taken that we are taking 10 billion to mend, you know, to heal our wounds. It was not healing our wounds just for BBI. It was healing our wounds for reparations and compensation. So I think that, first of all, should be cleared. Then
allow us to listen to the leaders who spoke about it yesterday. Then you can carry on.
Even I saw there was a problem there.
Yes, let's listen into Senator Orengo and the rest of the leaders that spoke at that event.
It was Ongeri.
As with the budget of 10 billion, therefore the county government is just organizing. They have no budget.
But we want to confirm to you that as far as we're concerned, there are no budgeted funds at the county level.
I hope the national government and county government is not going to hide behind BBI to cover up their failures to achieve for the country jobs for young people, economic growth.
I reaffirm a commitment previously made, and which I hope this House this year will pass, of designating a Kenya shillings 10 billion fund to heal the wounds of historical grievances.
We must have a referendum, and my views is that we should. That referendum should be conducted no later than the end of June, July this year.
You ask me that truthfully, there will be no referendum this year. I have heard some politicians saying this is the year of referendum, but they don't tell Kenyans that last year they also told people we will have referendum this year.
So those are those leaders.
Yeah, so let me think. I agree with Gladys that the president did say during the State of the Nation address that he has put aside 10 billion for reparations, for historical injustices. In fact, in 2015, in the State of the Nation report again, he apologized on behalf of the Republic of Kenya and the government for any historical injustices and promised that he would put aside again 10 billion. That was the reason why I have tabled a reparations bill in Parliament. Right. Because even if the President, the reason why the 2015 one didn't work is the President has made a policy statement. But if there is no law to back the policy statement, it's impossible to be implemented. And I'm hoping before the end of the term of this Parliament that my bill would have come through. And I know that is highly supported by most of the bill. So that is the 10 billion. BBI, as far as we are concerned, at the moment, we don't have a figure, to be honest, that is truthfully being announced by BBI. But BBI is required to file returns. Even as they close, they should attach their report. The report, when they give us the hard copy, should have a financial statement. Then we will know how much money they spent because they're required to do that. The 10 billion that has been mentioned by Ongeri, I think, again, that is a bit off because I don't think it can cost 10 billion, even if they have to go back for town hall meetings organized by governors, as he says. But like I said, I'm pleading that we get over with this. I know that I personally was very much against BBI because my worry had been that it's going to be used to extend the term of the president and create more position. At that time, you know, that was the talk. You know, we used to hear snippets of things. But when the BBI report came out and we read it, and we said what it has just told us is the same lamentations we know as Kenyans, the same problems that we know. It has given recommendations that can be implemented by institutions of government or can be implemented by legislation. But if it requires a referendum, what I would like the next time, Honorable Orengo, whom I respect as senior counsel, next time he speaks about it, I want him to say, we are going to go to a referendum on the following questions. And then those questions should be part of the 6 articles.
There is the second phase of all these BBI consultations.
Will come also, we didn't get a referendum on this one. We're going to go back a second one, so hopefully we can create a referendum situation.
Let me say this, and I wanted to clarify that.
But it was a consultative process. How many times can you go to the public?
Because if you look at the if you look at Article 255, you look at the, you know, one of the questions that must go to referendum is the objects, principles, and structure of devolution. From the face of it, and you're, you know, you're a senior lawyer, boss, from the face of it, for example, Nairobi is supposed to be scrapped and become a metropolis. That affects the structure of devolution. I mean, that is just a single point on the issue.
So let's say it like that. I want Orengo to say what she was saying.
Let me just make the point. So, for example, just off the top of my head, looking at that question of Nairobi being scrapped and affecting the structure of devolution, of course, for you to make that change, you need a referendum. If you look at the report on the roles of the Senate and how they want the Senate to be able to veto work of the National Assembly, that already goes to the roles, the functions of Parliament, which is also a referendum question. So when you dismiss and say nothing in the BBI report speaks to you know, questions that require a referendum, already, just off the top of my head, those two require a referendum already. And so even as we go to consultations, it is not that consultations now, because we didn't get a referendum in the first thing, we are now going to seek a referendum from the consultations.
What are we doing?
This is what we are doing. The BBI went round the country to all 47 counties, gathered views. You know, the view I gave in Homa Bay, for example, is not the same view, boss, if she spoke, but I saw that they didn't speak, or somebody else speaking elsewhere gave, you know, at that same time. So I don't know what the views are that somebody else gave, for example. So when we go to Kisii, for example, on the 10th, we expect to be told that this is, and not just us, but other grassroots leaders, these are the points that the BBI has raised. Are they okay? Are they your aspirations? So it is to share to share.
Before you can take it to her, isn't that the reason why we then would have a referendum for people to decide? Why are we going again to consult?
Not to consult. We are going to consult and explain. This is what has come out. Is it okay? Is it what you want? We are giving people another chance. Because the other thing that happened, for example, there are people who came up and said, we never saw that BBI team. Because at that point, as Gladys Boss was saying, they were opposed to the BBI process. They didn't even go and give any view, for example. So I think these regional meetings is to bring everybody on the same page as far as what the report says. This is what the report says, this is where we're going to. And then by the time we develop the bill, which should happen, you know, soon, pretty soon, and collect the 1 million signatures, people will be on the same page as far as what the report says.
This is the
allow
way.
us to listen into the leader of majority of the National Assembly at Ndwale, and the leader of the ODM party, Raila Odinga, had to say towards the end of last year, in as far as the what next for BBI.
We must decide, what kind of reforms do you want? Do you want a parliamentary system of government? Yes. The only route is through a referendum. From January, we start collecting signatures. We want to have a presidential system of government. We have it with the reforms in BBI, which can be done some by policy through government, some through executive order by the president. The rest is parliamentary. Let us form a bipartisan committee like IPPG. Those that we can agree on, we bring it to parliament the way we did with the election reforms in 2017. We finish it. So, you know, Senator Haji has done a good job. Now, when you come back to the people, we are consuming more time. You know, I expected that document to be given to a committee of experts.
It is not right to say these ones will be approved by parliament, these ones will go to referendum. Since you're having a referendum, you can put everything in there because the people can change any section of that constitution, okay? Parliament can only change certain parts. So since we are going to go to the people anyway, it's better to put all of them in one draft amendment bill.
Does that persuade you?
Let me put this way. First of all, I stand by my position from the beginning, which is there is only two ways of going to a referendum in Kenya. Through a popular initiative or a parliamentary initiative. BBI is neither, okay? But let's say BBI, whatever happened, it has now come with recommendations. What we should be doing is not going back to the people. What we should be doing is developing an implementation matrix. And if they can give me that job, I will be able to develop it in exactly 2 days.
2 days?
2 days. I can do an implementation matrix of that BBI report. Then with that implementation matrix, we can remove out what requires to be put into a draft bill then, if they want to go to a referendum. Even if I don't believe in it, let's assume I decide devolution, far-fetched as it is, role of Senate, far-fetched as it is, I put it there, I draft a bill, and then we do it, we either do it to collect the signatures, then we go to a popular initiative, or we undertake a parliamentary initiative. Right. It's very simple. We don't need to go back to the people. The time of explaining to the people is at the time when we are campaigning for the voting for the referendum. That is when you explain, because that is what voter education is. Right. That is why IEBC has a huge voter education budget during referendum. During referendum, you also have what they call referendum committees. Those referendum committees, if you are in the no campaign or you believe in this, you are actually, I remember when I was in IEBC, and in fact, it was His Excellency, the current president, who was then the deputy finance minister. And I went to him and told him that he should fund the referendum committees. Because if government is funded to push the agenda and the referendum committees are not funded, then it will look like the government used its money. And I remember he agreed to fund. I remember I walked out of his office with 12 billion shillings to fund Martha Karua, who had one referendum committee. There was the committees, the church committee led by Bishop Kariuki, I still remember very clearly. So during the reason why you fund referendum committees is that those referendum committees will explain to the people. So there is no need now to go to these town hall meetings, which Honorable Orengo and Senator Ongeri are proposing.
Can I intervene on that and say?
We are going back and forth on this.
You know, once you do the bill, there is no point at which it can be amended. Once the bill is drafted, it is now a roller coaster. There is no point.
But it was the most consultative process.
And hang on, there is no point at which that bill can be amended. You remember even before we went to the referendum, yes and no, there was a big bombers conference that took quite a bit of time of people just doing nitty-gritties. You know, yeah, you agree with this? Yes, I agree with this. Do you agree with that? Yes, I agree. Until we had a broad consensus. And that is how. So before you draft a bill, it is important to exhaust consultations before you draft a bill. Because once you draft the bill, it now starts on a motion that you can't amend it in the county assemblies, you can't amend it in the National Assembly, you can't amend it at the referendum. So the thing is, this broad-based consultation is to make sure, because as I said earlier, we spoke to people in their different, you know, small groups, small counties. For example, as Embrace, we went to KICC, we gave our views. Those views were included in the report. Yes, you know, but I think it is important for us now to build consensus around what goes into the bill. And I think these consultative meetings is to build that consensus. Once the consensus is built, we do the bill, knowing too well, because what Boss is saying, of course there will be education on after, you know, as we go to the referendum. But at that point, nothing can change. Nothing can be changed. I can only tell you, accept this, please accept this, but nothing can change. The difference now is that if I feel strongly, for example, that the views that Embrace gave at KICC, no, we don't want this or we don't want that, it can be changed. It can be changed as we draft the bill. So I think that consultation is important. And it will not even take time. It will not even take time. That is why they're being done in regions. Once you do Western region, Nyanza region, Coast region, the other region, then the bill will be drafted.
The worry is, no, let's clarify that issue. The worry is, the reason why we have a closing date for any event is because there has to be an end to consultation. You can never be open-ended and do it, or else we are going to be doing it for 20 years, like we did with the last constitution. What makes us think that these regional meetings, people will feel it's sufficient? Suppose people complain again, do we go? And even then, when this implementation matrix is being done, also other things will be taken into account. Articles that people have written in the newspapers during the process, comments that people have made, including people like me, will be taken into, you know, that's what a team of experts that does the implementation matrix takes into account.
All right, and of course, the conversation continues. With the BBI report, we were told that 7,000 people are consulted. I don't know how many the regional meetings will target.
We have 48 million Kenyans, by the way.
But those of majority age might be around 20 million. I'm not certain about that. Let's take a look at some of the things that you've been saying on Twitter, the feedback you're sending to us at Citizen TV Kenya, the hashtag being Daybreak. Sagiyoko, it's illogical for the entire population to be split along tribal lines and regions when discussing BBI. One's last name can almost give you a perfect guess on where they stand. This is very sad and very parochial. Let's be real.
All right, Steve, good morning. You say BBI is just milking us dry. We are broke. We need money and jobs, not these still butts.
Efo Kango says that Gladys Wanga should be honest with Kenyans. BBI proposed to retain all the 47 counties. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 provides for what needs a referendum in Article 255. BBI has none of them. Let us play honest politics.
Okay, Andrew, you say there is a lot of dishonesty in the discussion concerning this BBI report. There is an indication that the discussion is skewed to only look at few issues that does not actually look into the core of the things affecting the common wananchi. It is not just positions.
All right, talking of positions, we'll be closing this conversation on that after the break, especially bearing in mind that David Murathe, the former vice chairperson of the Jubilee Party, has said that Uhuru is too young. He is a possible candidate for Prime Minister. Do you think that's a possibility? After the break.